Yeah, I'm really excited to share this with you. I think it'll be very aligned with what you're already doing and what it sounds like you might be interested in doing. Let me just get started here.
Okay.
I want to tell you how momentum came into being. This is so it's probably been about, I don't know, 8 years ago or so. I went to a church event and it was at actually the minor league baseball stadium here in the Houston area over in Sugarland. And it was this all day event and it was all these different churches and all of these people and all of these scheduled things. And I volunteered as through my church to help. And they had this booth set up and they called it prophetic art. And I can be a little bit of a cynic sometimes, and I just kind of went, I've never even seen that, don't know about it, but I thought, well, I'll go. And I went in there, and there was these tables. They were 6 foot tables, and they had them lined up, 3 rows of 6 foot tables. And so it's quite an operation there. And they had these people that were lined up on one side of the table, and those were the artists. And then you would go and you would sit in front of the person and they would paint. And so I went in with an attitude of I don't know about this, and I sit down and this young woman, she starts painting this picture of these cookies on the
Mm.
cookie sheet. And she says, she just looked at me with the, first of all, let me back it up by saying, when I sat down, she says, what's your name? My name's Ann. Okay, Ann, I'm just going to ask God what he would like for me to paint for you. And then she painted
Mm.
this picture. And then she looked at me and she had tears in her eyes. And she said, God has given you a mother's love to share with those who need it because their own mother was not able to. You will
Mm.
show them how to be a woman, how to love their child, and it will heal them. God will make a way for this to happen. He'll show you what to do. He's given you the heart to give them. Love them well. And it very much resonated with me and with my life and all of those things. And so over time, I began to open up my home. And so I started inviting, I started with younger women, people a little bit younger than me, and invited them over to my house. And I said, y'all want to just come over and let's have supper. And I kept it very simple. And we just met every month for a full year and we had some food and then we talked. And that is what birthed momentum. And that's what it birthed what I'm getting ready to share with you. And that's the origin story of this program. But you don't have to, what I learned and what I'm sharing with you all is that you don't have to become someone else to lead other people into transformation. All you need is a plan and the courage to show up and open your arms and your heart to people to to let them in, serve them some cookies. So your compassion, your heart, and people who are drawn to this work are very compassionate and loving people. But your compassion and life experience can become a path to leading others. And what I've done is I've developed a framework that brings lots of clarity and very much an easy way to help lead other people through this transformation process. I just invite anyone who's listening to turn off any distractions that you might have and just close in with me and be present. I think that's a really important thing to do at this point. But you're here for one of 3 reasons. One is you just are wanting some meaningful work. You want something that doesn't compete with your life, with your family, with your schedule. Maybe that's one reason. Another reason is you want to lead others, you want to help them, but you really don't know where to start doing that, how you can do that. You might be doing it already, but maybe you're not quite sure how you would move forward if that was a decision you were going to make. And the third reason is you might be intrigued with the idea of creating income that could eventually replace your salary, depending on how much you wanted to do it and just create some freedom in your life where you would have more options. So, of those 3, do any ring true for you? People come to this work motivated by lots of different reasons, but what I have found is that all of them are great reasons, and I am here to support anybody's motivation to doing this kind of work. Just a little bit about me. I am a mom, an empty nest mom, just like you were talking about might be in your future. We have three adult kids, four grandkids. They all live very far away. The moral of that story is don't send your kids to school out of state because they meet their people out of state and then they just go places. But it's good because we get to go different places in the country to see them and to be with them. Right now I am a speaker and I'm really out there talking about this topic of bringing community and life to people through personal growth and development, which is what momentum is all about. I said that I invited these four ladies over for dinner. Here's what happened. We were meeting, and for one thing, all four of them, none of them missed 1 month. They all made a way to get there every month. They made it a priority. They all had kids and they all had distractions and everything, but they figured out how to get there. And what I watched unfold is that over time, we didn't start knowing each other very well, but over the meal, and I made it very simple, just soup and bread and a glass of wine. That was all. Oh, and I always make cookies. And they opened up and just really connected with each other. But they also were all kind of entrepreneur minded, and they also really are blowing and growing now. I can see what each of them is doing, and I think that part of that is a part of the encouragement they received in this group. But about the same time, I was doing some parent coaching, and there was this young mom, and I'm sitting here talking to her. She's got a couple of kids, and I told her about our dinners, and she said, I would give my right arm to have something like that. Time where I could go once a month and be with other women and learn things about myself have nothing to do with my kids. And so that is how momentum started. I said, do that. If you'll bring the people, then I'll figure it out. And so at about this time, I was going through this training program with this guy. His name is Jack Canfield, and he's the author of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series of books that was so wildly popular. He's a millionaire many times over as a result of those books. But he wrote a book called The Success Principles. And I was reading this book and it resonated so deeply with me. And I began to read that book over and over. It's little short chapters. I'd read one a day. And there's a 60 something chapter, 60 something principles. And I just read it over and over and really loved it. And then I learned that he had a certification program. So became a certified success coach through that. And then I built momentum based on those principles. But in my career as an entrepreneur, I am an early childhood educator, and I've been doing that for 40 years. And I have about 15 years of coaching and mentoring women through early childhood, but also just on the side. I'm guessing that might be part of your story. People just come to you and you just talk and you visit and you support them. I've got 20 online courses. In my career as an entrepreneur, I've made over 200,000, which some people might say that's not that much, especially in the circles I run with. People make tons of money as entrepreneurs. But my courses only cost $15. So I have sold a bunch of courses. 90% of that, the revenue I bring in comes from my online courses and speaking. And I don't do things that I don't want to do. And I say yes to the things that light me up. And right now, what's lighting me up is momentum. So here's what it looks like. It is simple. This is my dining table. You can see those are just our plain old dishes, plain old casserole, plain old glass of ice water. And then when we are doing our teaching, I just project onto our TV and take them through the teaching for the day. And there's lots of reflection and all of those kinds of things. So, momentum is a transformative journey. It takes people through 5 gatherings, and each one is built on the other. And it's really tailored for women at any stage of life. I have had people come through that are my age in their 60s. I've also had people that come through in their 20s, and everybody is ready to learn about themselves and learn what's next for them. Because no matter where we are in life, we're all in a transition to something, the next thing. And so what momentum does is it just provides a place for people to pause, to think about who they are, what they want, and then how to pursue those things. We do this, it's built on four pillars. The pillars are personal growth and development, and this is where the success principles come in. This is where the content of the program is. I'm going to go through the content in just a second. But the first pillar is personal growth and development. The second pillar is community building because the research is telling us that people, and we know this just because we live life, people are feeling a little isolated. And I think that this is a result of a lot of different things, but we just began some bad habits during COVID and we haven't put them down. And that one of those bad habits is we don't want to really be around people all that much. We'd prefer just to text or do it digitally. And but everyone is longing and craving to be around others. And so we create this community. We create some very clear guidelines on the community to create a safe space that's very intentional and we give everybody a space to have a voice. The next pillar is thoughtful parenting. We take the principles or the content and we say, okay, you're doing this. Now, how can you help your child do this or the other kids in your world? How could you help kids do this? And I just always feel like if our kids understood taking responsibility for themselves and who they are, what's their purpose in life, what's the vision for their life, and they had a couple of goals, I think that we would be launching kids, stronger kids out into the world. And maybe there wouldn't be quite so much vacillation when that's part of developmentally becoming an adult is in your 20s, you vacillate a lot. You have to explore. But what if you had this foundation of all of this stuff inside you already? And then the last pillar is modeling hospitality. It's very intentional. Everything is simple and easy. And we say, this is how I did it. This is why I did it this way. Here's the recipe. Would you go home and make this recipe and invite somebody to your house and have a similar conversation around the table? Because that's another place that we are really not connecting is in our homes. And I think that this is affecting children. I really think it's affecting children a lot. So these are the topics of the five gatherings. The first one is taking responsibility. The question is, does anybody want more responsibilities? No, nobody wants more responsibility. But what we teach is how to understand that you have the ability to respond to the things in your life in a way that is positive and empowering to you. And you can either say, I'm the one who's in charge of this, or I can blame and complain, and it's everything else is making this happen to me. And so we say, no, the way you respond is what's making it happen to you. And so that first lesson is really foundational to the whole program. And then the next one is we look at what's your purpose? Why were you put on this earth? And what is it that you love? And we really spend a lot of time with that. What do you love? What do you want? Question. From there, we create a vision. And on this gathering, we create a vision board. And depending on your time, maybe you make a full-on vision board, which takes more time, or maybe a little mini vision board that you can define your purpose and your what you want based on that vision. And we take that vision, we just create a couple of goals, whatever is good for you at that point. If you've got four children at home and they're all under the age of 8, then you can maybe make one goal. But if you're at another point in life, maybe you can make several goals, and it's very individualized. We also at this one have one of those, what do they call it? The big, hairy, audacious goal. If you could do anything, what would that be? Sell everything, move to Italy or whatever. Could that be a possibility? And look at all of those options. The last one is called Release the Brakes. That's all about your mindset and this neuroscience of the connection between what you think and what your body does and how your body responds. And we go through this whole muscle testing thing, and it's very powerful and impactful to look at the power of your thoughts and how they affect you. And because that will be the one thing that keeps people from meeting their goals and doing this vision and living in their purpose. So that my vision for Momentum is for gatherings to be happening all over the world. It is a huge vision. I was on a call with somebody this morning. They called it a movement. This you are creating a movement in. And so I feel like that is part of that tray of cookies. I feel like that is the prophetic word from God. So helping women find community, discover their purpose, find the confidence to do what God's calling them to do. And with that, we create a plan of action that empowers them and also empowers them to strengthen their families as a result. It's also a movement that connects older women with younger women, and so that we can learn and grow from each other. I learn a whole lot from people younger than me, and I have a whole lot to share with them that they don't know already. And we all need each other. So imagine gathering with other people, sharing real conversations, and watching lives transform, including your own. Imagine flexible income, purpose, legacy, impact, all from a conversation around the supper table. One of the things that I have noticed with the coaches who have gone through, who are in the program, is that we are on a parallel path, man. Like all of those things of the content that I just shared you with you that we speak of as coaches, we are taking responsibility. We are finding our purpose. We are creating a vision and setting goals. I, as the leader of the coaches, we just talk about the parallel path. It's just always, they're always growing deeper. And what I see is I see the women who are coaching just transforming in front of my eyes. I see them lighting up from within, and it is just a really cool thing to observe. So you don't have to start from scratch, become somebody you're not in order to lead others. I've created this framework where your table becomes a place where people rediscover who they are, with guidance, you help them rediscover themselves. The power of the table. It's more than just a meal. And I'm sure you can imagine, and oftentimes we are in situations where we are like in a kind of maybe with new people, and you go into a room and you sit down at the table and everybody's a little quiet and awkward. And then as the meal progresses, it just loosens up. That's what happens. The table is a very powerful place. And we all know that if you want to have a good conversation, if you want to have a party that is successful, you have to have good food. You got to have some good stuff to drink. People like to have something in their hand. They like something to do, and they like to feed their bellies. But it also opens up minds and hearts. What research tells us, and this is new research in the last couple of years, 78% of moms, actually parents, report debilitating symptoms of anxiety and depression. 77% say that their most important community is an online community. And 75% of moms surveyed say they just don't have friends. They don't have mom friends. I often ask young women, how do you find mom friends? I don't know. I don't know how to find them. I don't know how to meet people that I can connect with. And so they go online because that's where the places are. But if your kid's got 104 fever, you need to go to the ER and you've got two upstairs asleep and you're on your own, you need real people to call. You need a community around you. And that's what momentum does is it creates community. The cookies are very much a part of it. I always have cookies. I just make a batch of dough and I ball it up and I freeze them in balls. And anytime there's people coming to my house, I bake up as many cookies as I think I need. Even when I'm sitting here doing some parent coaching, I will make a little plate of cookies and people eat them. They just eat cookies. I literally use the recipe on the chocolate chip bag, the Toll House recipes. I add a little salt on top to make them my own. But the cookies are my way of recognizing that original word to me, and also people like them. The meal conversation is very intentional. The way that I have momentum set up is they come in, they get a name tag, they are invited to go get a drink, and I do serve wine, and I think that is nice for people because if they like wine, it just is a social lubricant a little bit when it helps you relax and shake off the day. We have a little bit of an appetizer, but we meet in the room and do a slight icebreaker. And the icebreaker is related to the content of that evening. And then they move to the table, and the table has a very intentional conversation. I give them questions to answer. I put one person as the facilitator, and that person is going to make sure that everybody speaks and that the conversation isn't hijacked by the two most gregarious people sitting there. Sometimes that can happen. And then after the meal, they come back, and that's where we have our teaching, and then we have reflection time, and then there's always some work to do in between our gatherings to continue the work that you've learned. But an example of an icebreaker might be that what's something that you love to do so much that you lose track of time when you're doing it? And that question, we can all think of that one thing. For me, I can lose track of time when I'm sewing. I love to sew and I can sew for hours. When I was a long time ago, before I had a family, I would sew all night long, literally, just making clothes and making stuff. And but that's the what's your purpose night, because what you lose track of time doing is very much related to what you love and what you're created to do. But what the another piece of research called the World Happiness Report said that people who eat together are the happiest people in the world. And so there is a little bit of magic that happens when we share a meal. Here's Jody. Jody is actually our very first certified momentum coach, and she came to every momentum group I ever had. I tried it in a lot of different iterations as I was going through this process. And she said the warmth and coziness of the gatherings are very special, and everyone feels welcomed. Momentum has opened my eyes to the fact that hosting does not have to be a grand affair. Intentionality in all keys of areas of life is key in all areas of life, from parenting to daily routines. And so that is part of what we teach, is just be intentional. You've already got what it takes. Everybody who's lived a life is prepared to help others lead their lives. And so if you've lived it, then you can lead it. And what we give is some tools that will allow you to do this. It's very much a template that we give you, and then you take your own experiences and your own stories and put them in there, just like my orange juice story in the newsletter this morning. That is just one way to say, wow, that was an amazing meal that lady made for me. Her name was Mrs. McDonald, and her son was Wiley McDonald. And I all these years later, I remember that meal. And it's just, if you've lived it, then you can lead it and you can come up with your own stories. 58% of women report that they really need mentoring and do not know where to find it. So it is a felt need. Women need someone else to guide them along at every stage of life. I am looking for a mentor for myself. I need somebody that can help me age out well. And I want to be strong as I get older. I don't want to get bored. I don't want to let things get a hold of me. And so by guiding others, you are helping with this thing. So you don't have to be like way far ahead of people. Anybody who's been in teaching, and you know this because you're in education, you just need to know about 10% more than the people you're teaching. And you don't have to be this expert in life. You don't have to have everything figured out. You just need to have the willingness to share what you do know. This is Liza, and she came to Momentum with her daughter, her adult daughter. And so she's an entrepreneur herself, and she's raised her family, but she also has an adopted daughter who, so she's still got a teenager at home, even though she's got kids that are way grown and gone. But she found so much value in the program. She wished it was more often. Truly fantastic. I'm loving every bit, reflecting on my journey. I just wish I had access to these learnings when I was younger, like the younger moms in the group now. Treasure trove of wisdom, beneficial at any age, especially impactful for those that are starting their parenting journey. Yeah, also we could put in the word entrepreneur journey, because this is great for anyone who's business minded and would like to do that. The third thing is that it can be income that feels aligned with who you are and doesn't feel awkward. It is when you can do what you love and make money doing it, that is the key to happiness in life. Those are the happy people who love their work. And so when it flows from your purpose and your authenticity, the income just becomes a natural outcome. One of our coaches she works with people one to one, and she just said, I'm just going to keep doing this. And she's just charging a little bit more each time as she feels more confidence come, and she feels more confidence in charging what she wants to charge. But it's not something to apologize for. It's something to steward with joy and to step into with boldness. The global market for personal coaching, 5.34 billion, and that is going up. I read these reports oftentimes. This is 24, this number. So 2026, the numbers are different. I think it was, I don't remember what it was. I need to look at my research, but personal coaching is not going anywhere. A lot of people are coaching. There's a lot of coaching certification programs out there, and you can go as deep into that hole as you want to. This program is pretty, you've already got it. That's what I'm saying. We give you this stuff, but you already know how to do this, probably because you know how to live a life and you can help others along the way with the tools that we have. This is Kelsey. She's the one who helped me get this whole thing started. She's the one who invited her friends over for the first momentum groups. She loved digging deeper into herself and working on herself as a person and not just me as a mom. Setting goals was new to me. Being able to set them and write them down made me more mindful of things I can accomplish as a mom and also by being herself. She also is an entrepreneur. She has this really cool caramel apple business here in Friendswood, Texas. And she said that she met her goals, which was increasing her revenue. And she's continuing to grow. I watch her on socials. She's still making those apples and they're really good. Earning money through momentum isn't about pressure or performance. It's really just about being compensated for what you are already doing to help other people grow. And the work flows from intention and authenticity. So we looked at why you're here and you showed up even though you're busy and you came for a specific reason. Maybe you're looking for the meaningful work that doesn't interfere with your family. You like the idea of working from home. You want to help others, you see their needs, and you would really like to help them, but you're not quite sure what's the next best step for that. And you might be intrigued by creating a little income that flows from purpose, authenticity, and professionalism. The professionalism piece of that is very important to me. I think it's really important that we conduct these gatherings with deep professionalism, with excellence. That's what I teach. So you have two options. One is to go take this and run. And I'll say with honesty, if you like what I've done and you want to go do it all by yourself, do it. Because you know what? If you do that, then you are gathering people in, you are creating community, you are helping people grow. But the other option is that you want to commit 100% and start momentum branded gatherings and use our proven roadmap to make this happen. And that way you don't have to do all of the work. You can do the first one if anyone can. I did, but this one actually gives you some help. So I'm just going to teach you how I've done it, how I have begun transforming others through group and one-to-one coaching. And I've created this program called the Momentum Certification Academy. And it's the only one of its kind that facilitates group and individual coaching through conversations over a meal, using this framework that is developed for personal growth and building community and thoughtful parenting and modeling hospitality. So it's a very comprehensive look at how we can help people enrich their lives. By the end of the program, you learn the model, the business model for group and individual coaching. You learn all about adult learning and delivery. I taught college classes for most of my career. I'm an adult teacher. I train teachers. And so there are principles of teaching that are specific to adults that are different from what we learn, what we know about teaching children. How to keep a group interested, how people engaged, how to get all the folks involved, all of those kinds of things. That's part of that. Of course, I give you the momentum content, and coaches go through the content on their own before they go through it with other people. We look at the principles of coaching and building community, and then how to set up and implement your business. And this is ongoing training. We do this a biweekly call that is a business call. Some different ways that you can use your momentum certification. One is to host in your home, like I did. The other one is to host momentum in another place, like a restaurant or your One of my coaches is hosting in her friend's house because she is in between houses. She's selling her house. And so her friend has opened up the home and she's actually going to do a retreat at her friend's house. And they are going to go through the whole program in 2 days. Momentum makes a really great retreat. So women's retreats could be coupled with all kinds of different fun things. You could do all kinds of massage and yoga and cooking classes. And I just think the sky's the limit when it comes to retreats. One-to-one coaching, I have one coach and that's all she does pretty much because she has a special needs 7-year-old and it's just hard for her to open up her home for dinners. But she is very effective with one-to-one coaching. Can be a ministry outreach. I've got nonprofits that are very interested in momentum. Our church is probably going to use one of our momentum coaches to lead after church meals and use the curriculum with the people there. Would be great women's ministry content, corporate training, lunch and learns, that kind of thing. I've done Chick-fil-A, vision board workshops, all of that. You can take any one of the content pieces and run with it. You could take 100% responsibility and you could run with that. That could be a whole thing of a retreat or lunch and learns and that kind of stuff. Childcare parenting programs, I think it just really fits. You've already got the space to watch the children while the parents gather, maybe have a potluck and go through the curriculum and apply it to parenting. Parent engagement programs and ISDs. I've got a couple of regions that have me as a vendor. And so I'm working to get it's the the Head Start programs, but also the foster liaison folks. And there's another one. But anyways, the people who are the social side of ISDs who have a lot of face-to-face with parents, it could be very good one-to-one with them. And then online coaching is an option as well. Momentum coaches set their own prices based on their own experience. They set their prices. I don't set prices for you, but I share with people what I charged. And what I charged was $100 a gathering because that included the meal plus the group coaching. And that is what got people in the door. When it was free, they didn't come. They would say they're coming and not come. And if it was too cheap, they didn't come. And then, of course, by setting the price at $500 for the whole program, then you can decide if you're going to offer scholarships, you're going to offer discounts. You are the one who's in charge of that. But by pricing it, it values it, it increases the value in other people's eyes. So here's the certification path. You learn about momentum, which is what you're learning right now. And then you register for the course and you go through the program. And then once you go through the program, and part of the program, because I'm a teacher trainer, I want you to do a little practicum. I want you to do a practice group so that you can get your feet wet while you're still under the tutelage of me and the group so that you feel like you have confidence with it. And then after you've done that, you become a certified coach. You create a transformative business. You help other women grow. You stay part of our coaches community. We have an online community. We meet every other week, like I said, and I'm getting ready as we grow to increase that even more. We're talking about a book club, business book club, and we have lots of ideas. And so we're still in the beta stage right now. We are still developing this. And so this is a great time to get in. So, what would you stop doing if your momentum business was successful? And so that's an interesting question. This is the website that you probably are familiar with, but this is where you can go to learn about it. What you get is the training course. It's an online course that has 6 modules, all of the things that I listed earlier. And then with new coaches, there's 4 live teaching sessions. I call them the orientation, and also just really help walking you through the content of the gathering content, those 5 topics. I go through that with new coaches. You get a membership in this coaching community. It is an online login that is part of your course, and then the biweekly training with other courses. Right now, when you sign up, you get this free little mini course, and this is all about the 100% responsibility thing. And it's reclaiming your life. When you say, I'm the one who's going to decide the outcome of the events that happen, it gives you so much empowerment and freedom. And that's what this little course is about. It's actually gathering one. So this is going to be the price of this certification. But right now, like I said, we're in this beta and I'm offering at $9.97 for the certification program. And this is going to go away in July. Everybody who's joining in right now is part of the second cohort of the beta groups, and this is the pricing. So here's how you can sign up. One thing I didn't mention is that I do have a little workbook for the Momentum participants. And when you sign up, you get a few of these for your practice group and also some other things that are physically sent to you. But every time you meet, you have these type of fill in the blank type exercises. And so you teach, and then people work in their workbook, and then they take it home and they reflect. And there's, of course, there's lots of journal questions and stuff like that as well. What questions do you have?